I am 30 male, and my entitled sister's ultimate betrayal. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and I never thought I'd be the kind of person filing a police report against my own sister. But here we are. If you had asked me a year ago, I would have said that despite her flaws, she was still family. That no matter how self-centered she could be, she wouldn't cross certain lines. Turns out, I was wrong. It all started when I got engaged to my now wife. It was supposed to be one of the happiest times of my life. My fiancé and I had been together for 5 years, and I was beyond excited to marry her. My sister, though, she didn't take it well. See, my sister, 32 female, has always had a habit of making everything about her. If something good happened to me, she'd find a way to make herself the victim. If I got a promotion, she complained that she was stuck in a dead-end job. If I bought a new car, she'd whine about how she couldn't afford one. And now that I was getting married, she acted like I had personally betrayed her. She wasn't just upset, she was livid. She cried about how she was older and still single. She complained about how it was unfair that I got to have a wedding while she was left behind. Mind you, she had been in plenty of relationships, but managed to sabotage every single one with her entitlement and drama. But somehow, my engagement was an attack on her. At first, I just brushed it off. I figured she'd come around. My mother kept insisting that she was just having a hard time and that I should be patient with her. So, I tried, but then she started escalating. She made passive-aggressive comments every time we talked. She made a big show of joking about how my fiancé wasn't that pretty or how our relationship probably wouldn't last. She even tried to stir drama by telling my fiancé that I had doubts about the wedding, which was a complete lie. But the real nightmare began when we started wedding planning. My fiancé had picked out the most beautiful wedding dress. It was expensive, sure, but we had saved up for it. She had spent months searching for the perfect one, and when she finally found it, she was over the moon. It was custom-made, fitted exactly to her, and absolutely stunning. It was stored safely in my parents' house because we lived in a small apartment, and we didn't want anything to happen to it. And then one day it was gone. I got a call from my mother, panicked, saying that something had happened to the dress. My fiancé and I rushed over, expecting maybe a small stain or a tear, something that could be fixed. But no, the dress was destroyed. Completely shredded, torn apart like an animal had gotten to it. It was cut, slashed, and soaked in what I later realized was red wine. Someone had deliberately ruined it beyond repair. And I knew exactly who did it. I turned to my mother, who looked guilty as hell. I demanded to know if my sister had been at the house. She hesitated, but eventually she admitted that yes, my sister had come over earlier. But she insisted that there was no proof that she had done it. I saw red. I stormed out, drove straight to my sister's place, and banged on her door. When she finally opened it, she had this smug, satisfied look on her face. Like she had won something. I didn't even have to ask. She just smiled and said, "Guess the wedding's postponed, huh?" I could have lost it right then and there, but I forced myself to stay calm. Instead of screaming, I pulled out my phone and said, "You're paying for it." She laughed. She actually laughed and said, "Good luck with that." She thought she could get away with it, that there was nothing I could do, that my parents would protect her like they always did. Well, not this time. I called the police. Right there, in front of her. She freaked out the second she realized I wasn't bluffing. She started crying, begging me to just talk it out as if she hadn't just ruined a dress worth thousands of dollars out of sheer jealousy. I wasn't having any of it. The cops arrived, and I filed a report for destruction of property. She tried to play dumb, but my parents' security cameras showed her walking in with a bottle of wine and scissors. She was caught red-handed. The cops didn't arrest her on the spot, but they took my report seriously. They documented everything, took photos, and even spoke to my parents. My mother was still trying to shield my sister, saying she wasn't thinking straight and that we were family. But I wasn't backing down. I made it very clear. She was going to pay for every single penny. A few days later, I followed up with the police and found out that my report had been forwarded to the district attorney's office. Since the dress was expensive, over $7,000, this wasn't just a minor incident. In my state, that counted as felony-level property damage. I was given the option to pursue criminal charges. And I did. The moment my sister found out, she lost it. She called me in hysterics, screaming about how I was ruining her life over a stupid dress. I calmly told her that she ruined her own life. I warned her. She thought she was untouchable, that I would roll over like I had so many times before. But this time, there were real consequences. She ran to my parents, crying about how she would have a criminal record, how it would destroy her future, how she'd never get a decent job. My mother begged me to drop the charges. My father, who usually stayed out of our conflicts, finally stepped in and told her, he's right. She did this to herself. My mother still tried to negotiate, saying we should just settle it within the family. But I refused. I told them she was paying for a new dress, whether she liked it or not. That's when my sister tried one last dirty trick. She suddenly offered to pay half, but only if I signed an agreement dropping the case. Basically, she was trying to scam me into letting her off the hook without actually paying in full. I rejected it immediately. Instead, I got a lawyer and took her to civil court. The lawsuit was brutal. The evidence was stacked against her. The security footage alone sealed her fate. The judge didn't just order her to pay for the dress in full. He also ordered her to pay additional damages for emotional distress and legal fees. In total, she had to cough up over $10,000. And guess what? She didn't have the money. She had to take out a loan to pay for it. And from what I heard, she's still struggling with the payments. It completely wrecked her financially. She kept crying about how it was just a dress. But for me, it was never about the dress. It was about her entitlement and the fact that she thought she could get away with ruining something important to me. My wedding still happened, and my wife found a new dress, one even better than the first. My sister? She wasn't invited. And when she showed up unannounced on the wedding day, security escorted her right out. She still hasn't forgiven me. But honestly, I don't care. Actions have consequences. And this time, she finally learned that the hard way. Oh, and if you ever need a reminder to never let entitled family members walk all over you, consider subscribing. You never know when you'll need some backup for your own revenge story.